This hour, Opposition Alliance concludes Saturday's protest on a discouraging note with minimal support from the public. Maldives Police Service calls on all media agencies in Maldives to refrain from spreading baseless and incorrect information. And Iranian President Hassan Rouhani lands at New Delhi's Palam Air Force Station as he continues his visit to India.
Hello and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Fatma Zara. Opposition Alliance concludes Saturday's protest on a discouraging note with minimal support from the public.
The February 16 protest, which was first announced by former President Mohammad Nasheed, was later on joined by other opposition parties. The protest, which was majorly hyped by the opposition parties as the biggest gathering of the oppositional alliance, called on all Maldivians to gather to the capital city. The opposition encouraged Maldivians living in islands to travel to Male city to protest against the government. Amidst these calls, the military and the security forces advised to refrain from committing any action which would create fear and hatred amongst the public. However, the opposition kept on with their call of creating a scenario of fear and fury amongst the Maldivian public, which prompted the security nation. In a press briefing held by Maldives Police Service, Superintendent of Police Ahmed Shifan revealed that the authority have received intelligence that a group of people are preparing to create unrest in the country through the protest. In this regard, Shifan said that under the state of emergency declared by President Yamin on February 5, Article 31, right to strike, and Article 32 of the Constitution, freedom of assembly of public, has been constricted. Thus, the gathering organized by the opposition would not be allowed. Meanwhile, the ruling party, Progressive Party of Maldives PPM, has described the February 16 protest by the oppositional alliance as a failed attempt and stated that the timid response received by the protest shows the minimal support they have in the society. In a press conference held by PPM, Deputy Leader Abdul Rahim Abdullah cited that with the response that Maldivians does not want to create unrest in the country. While Maldives Police Service has arrested few individuals throughout the protest, the few protesters kept chanting and using disgraceful language towards the security forces, government officials and authorities.
Maldives Police Service calls on all media agencies in Maldives to bring forth the true aspects of journalism and refrain from spreading baseless and incorrect information to the public. In a statement issued by Maldives Police Service regarding the latest protest of the oppositional alliance on February 16th, the institution cited that under the state of emergency declared by President Yamin on February 5th, right to strike and freedom of assembly have been suspended. The police service noted the institution had warned the February 16 protest would not be allowed as it had received an intelligence report that a group of people are preparing to create unrest in the country through the protest. However, the police service cited that the protest took place and the action of some individuals were against the principles of a peaceful protest. Maldives police noted that some media personnels were conducting their coverage against the ethics of journalism and called on all media agencies to refrain from such actions. The police advised the agencies to abide by the constitutions and deliver true and authentic news to the public. Minister of Environment and Energy, Tariq Ibrahim, reveals that the administration of President Abdul Yamin Abdul Qayyum would not let any individual demolish the true aspects of democracy, such as independence and nationalism of the country. Speaking to PSM News, the Environment Minister said the oppositional alliance aims to hinder the bold speed progress initiated by President Yamin, but assured that the administration would not let the economy face any negative effect. Continuing on, Minister Tariq said that both former President Mohammad Nasheed and President Maumoon Abdul Qayyum have failed to deliver development to the country, and highlighted that President Yamin have ventured into new horizons and advanced the country in a short period of time. The minister described the attempted coup by the oppositional alliance by the backing of the judiciary as a cowardly act and called on opposition to defect President Yamin in the presidential election. Defeat President Yamin in the presidential election. On this note, Minister Tariq revealed that the bravery and courage displayed by President Yamin in this sensitive situation has reported the coverage of his cabinet in assisting the president to deliver major development projects initiated in the country. Majority Leader of Parliament Ahmad Nihan Hussein Manik reveals the opposition intends to tarnish the image of Maldives and its constitution in the international arena with the forceful attempts to enter the parliament premises. Addressing a press briefing held by Progressive Party PPM, the Majority Leader noted that such acts would not be committed by any individual who respects the Maldivian constitution. In this regard, Ahmad Nihan highlighted the Maldivian Parliament is currently in recess and that there is not need to forcefully enter the premises. Addressing the press, Deputy Leader of PPM Abdul Rahim Abdullah described the February 16 protests by the oppositional alliance as a failed attempt and stated that the timid response received shows the minimal support the opposition have in the society. Abdul Rahim Abdullah cited that with the response received from the public, it is evident that Maldivians do not want to create havoc and unrest in the country. In addition, spokesperson of PPM Ali Arif said the oppositional alliance is never faithful to its supporters, as all leaders of the alliance have either fled the country while urging common Maldivians to hold street protests. Ali Arif called on all Maldivians to refrain from any action which would disrupt the peace and harmony of the country. Minister of Fisheries and Agriculture Dr. Mohammad Shaini calls on all political parties to refrain from elevating violence in the nation and let ballot boxes decide our leader through a free and fair presidential election. Speaking on Maldives Today TV program aired on PSM News, the Maldivian Fisheries Minister cited that while outrageous comments made by former President Mohammad Nasheed to the international media has made Maldives a trending topic, such acts have not prompted any foreign pressure on the government.
Speaking about the current political situation in Maldives, Minister of Fisheries and Agriculture Dr. Mohammad Shaini stated that the political mess Maldives is currently witnessing have been created by the opposition alliance. He credited President Yamin and his strategic approach as the factors that nullified all tactics utilized by the opposition. Minister Shaini highlighted that the plot executed by the opposition involved deep-rooted corruption and cited that such acts never bring about a good change to the nation. Expressing regret over the role of some players of the Maldivian judiciary, Minister Dr. Mohammad Shaini said that in the backing the actions of the opposition, the judiciary attempted to exert undue influence over the factors outside the jurisdiction of the judiciary. Dr. Shaini, who is the chair of the all-party talk, cited that while outrageous comments made by the former President Mohammad Nasheed to the international media has made Maldives a trending topic, such acts have not prompted any foreign pressure on the government. On this note, the minister emphasized the negative impacts of such acts on the Maldivian economy, which is heavily dependent on the foreign investments.
No, unfortunately, Maldivians and who have been ex-presidents, when they call upon military intervention to the country, then it becomes a major issue or is a major talking point. But under the international norms, there is no way that this happens, because there isn't any situation in the country where there should be a military intervention. If you go out into the street, walk around in Mali, there is nothing of that sort of malicious intent or any such violent activities happening in the street that a foreign country have to be involved here.
He urged all parties to refrain from such acts. Shedding light on the preparations of the upcoming presidential elections, Dr. Shaini highlighted that President Yamin has officially launched his campaign at the beginning of this month amidst the political crisis. The minister emphasized that it is high time that all political parties set aside violence and let the ballot boxes decide who would be the president through a free and fair election.
I think the presidential election preparation should be happening with the opposition as well, and I hope this is not the preparation by the opposition. I mean, calling for violence, trying to disrupt the harmony in the country. This is not the way forward. It should be through the ballot boxes that we decide who will be the next president. I hope that the opposition strategy is not doing what they are doing now for the president's election. I mean, on part of the government coalition, we are trying to campaign to win the elections.
President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Qayyum declared state of emergency in Maldives on 5th of February for a 15-day period. Following the declaration, Minister Dr. Shaini, along with some other cabinet ministers, visited the foreign nations as envoys of President Yamin to provide updates on the current situation of the nation.
Ministry of Economic Development announces loan scheme worth of over $12 million for small and medium-scale entrepreneurs in Maldives. Economic Ministry expects a great response from the public as similar loan schemes announced by the ministry in the past received rave responses.
Expansion of small and medium-scale enterprises is one of the prime focuses of the administration of President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Qayyum. As part of this objective, Ministry of Economic Development has been carrying out various training programs and leasing loans such as guest house loan and Faseha Madadu loan to boost these businesses. This year, the Economic Ministry has also introduced a new loan scheme targeting businesses run by Maldivian women. This loan scheme aims to cater women who are interested to expand their scope in the business sector. Briefing the media, Deputy Minister of Economic Development Adam Tawfiq revealed that this year the ministry aims to invest over $12 million to boost small and medium-scale enterprises in the country. Deputy Minister Tawfiq revealed that over 20% of this investment is expected to be utilized under the guest house loan scheme. The Deputy Minister assured that the ministry would continue previously existing loan schemes such as Faseha Madadu, and revealed that the application window for these schemes would be opened within this month. As per information revealed by the Economic Ministry, various businesses have flourished and expanded its scope in the business sector via the loan schemes provided from the ministry. Economic Ministry also noted the significant increase in the involvement of youth in such activities.
Al-Shali Marine Maldives launches a new luxury launch specialized for tourism sector in the Maldives. According to information provided by Al-Shali Marine Maldives, the launch named Magellan 45 is specifically designed with an inbuilt stabilizing mechanism while traveling through the Maldivian oceans. As per information provided by Operations Manager of Al-Shali Marine Maldives, Ismail Sharif, the new launch is the optimum vessel to transport few number of tourists in Maldives. In this regard, Ismail Sharif said various models of the launch is introduced and the launch would be delivered in 3 to 4 months of ordering. Ismail Sharif concluded by stating that the company would expand its scope by introducing other models of launches and yachts. India's Enforcement Directorate, a government agency that fights financial crime, carries out raids on the offices and showrooms of Nirav Modi.
The offices and showrooms of Nirav Modi is in the center of a 1.77 billion load fraud at state-run Punjab National Bank, the biggest bank scheme in the country's history.
On the advice of the ED, we have suspended the validity of the passport And if you are familiar with the Passports Act of 1967, this is a step towards the revocation of passport. Normally, I think a period of 4 weeks is given, which is also mentioned in our press statement. And they have to reply within 4 weeks why their passport should not be impounded or revoked under certain sections of the Passport Act. If they fail to respond within the stipulated time, then we will go ahead with the revocation.
Modi is accused of colluding with bank employees to fraudulently obtain advances for payments to overseas suppliers to his business, stretching from New York to London to Beijing. Indian Minister Prakash Javadekar said the government will take every step to recover the money. India's foreign ministry said it has suspended the passports of Modi and Choksi for 4 weeks and has given them a week's time to voice objections to its plan to revoke the documents. The fraud has raised fears about the scale of problems in the banking sector that is already saddled with $147 billion of sore debt.
The investors, local or global and institutional or retail, they will start thinking, can we rely on the numbers, whatever numbers we have in front of us? Can we bet on that numbers? Because this is a systematic failure. They have internal audit, external audits, RBI audit, so nothing has won. It was not detected. It went on for 6 years. So I think the question here is credibility of the entire banking system in India, and this will have a far-reaching impact on overall India's appeal as far as investment destination.
Looking at news from international arena, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani lands at New Delhi's Palam Air Force Station as he continues his visit to India.
Rouhani arrived in the southern city of Hyderabad on Thursday and addressed a Muslim congregation there. The Iranian leader is scheduled to hold a series of meetings with Indian leaders in the last leg of his visit, including the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday. The trip comes amid US pressure to review a 2015 international nuclear deal and reimpose sanctions on Iran. India is trying to develop the port of Chabahar on Iran's east coast as a way to gain access to the markets of the Central Asia, bypassing arch rival Pakistan. Chabahar is about 72 kilometers from the Pakistani port of Gwadar, which China is developing. But progress is slow because of the concern that US President Donald Trump's administration may eventually scrap the Iran nuclear deal.
Insecurity in Afghanistan is displacing thousands of civilians in the provinces, many of whom end up in sprawling mud brick settlements on the outskirts of Kabul, where they live in freezing winter temperatures.
In 2017, fighting forced 360,000 people from their homes, while more than 17,000 people were displaced in the last week of January, the United Nations said.
Definitely, the winter is very harsh in Afghanistan, in particular in mountainous areas. So when people are coming back to an environment they're not familiar with, and in the middle of the winter, it is harsh for them. It's not only for people coming back, but also for people who are here, displaced persons. That is also difficult for them.
In the Nasaji Bagrami camp, where nearly 1,000 people live, women and children gather paper and plastic rubbish to burn their stove as they try to keep warm in the shelter on a muddy plain on the outskirts of Afghan capital. While violence is forcing families from their homes, at the same time some Afghan refugees are returning from Pakistan and Iran, putting an added burden on the government and international organizations trying to help them. Many of the displaced say they have received no help.
The internally displaced, they face lots of challenges, including shelter, including access to services, as well as the detainees who are coming back. They are in need of livelihood, access to education, access to health, and to be able to integrate immediately and live like an Afghan in this country. The host communities who host them, they also face challenges. So that's why the humanitarian needs are massive, and the UN including UNHCR, support the government of attending to these humanitarian needs, whatever in shelter, in protection, in health, in education, in water.
The winter cold is misery for most of them, and it is especially hard on those who come back during this season, said the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR representative in Afghanistan, Fatia Abdullah. But for the children living in the squalid and basic camps, snow provides much appreciated entertainment.
UN's World Food Programme WFP says food aid is urgently needed for people living in Deir al-Zor, eastern Syria's largest city. The statement was made after its first aid convoy in more than 3 years arrived in the city.
The UN have been prevented from running aid convoys due to the occupation of Deir al-Zor city and governorate by military group IS in mid-2014 and the subsequent military operation by the Syrian government and its allies to retake it. Instead, WFP high-altitude aid drops arranged from April 2016 to August 2017 over Deir al-Zor, the agency said. The WFP's deputy director in Syria said, now that the roads were accessible, the agency intended to beef up its aid programs and deliver more assistance to both Deir al-Zor city and the wider governorate. Deir al-Zor was the focus of intense fighting from early September onwards, as Syrian government troops sought to break IS siege on the government-held enclave and take back the governorate. Convoys have been prevented from reaching Deir al-Zor since its liberation due to roads leading into the city being mined, the WFP said, adding that they and the other agencies can now regularly bring aid from Damascus via Homs and Palmyra.
We assisted the people in their soul through our airdrop operations in the past year and a half. Since the roads are now accessible, we intend to beef up our programs and deliver more assistance to the city and the governorate.
According to the agency, around 80% of the city has been destroyed, with more than 100,000 inhabitants living in a densely populated area in the city's west.
The future role of the European Union (EU) as a global actor and its relations with Russia and the United States are among the key focuses of the 54th Munich Security Conference, MSC, which officially opened in the city of Munich, Germany, Friday afternoon.
More than 500 participants from around the world, including over 20 heads of the government and states, and nearly 40 foreign ministers and 40 defense ministers from different countries, all attended the 3-day major annual gathering for international security issues amid uncertain transatlantic relations and challenges to the liberal international order, mainly protectionism and nationalism. In addition, participants will also discuss an array of global security issues such as conflicts in the Middle East, especially the deteriorating relations between the Gulf states and the political developments in the Sahel region in Africa. Moreover, arms and control issues will be a point of emphasis, in particular the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's nuclear program. German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen and French Defense Minister Florence Parly announced the commencement, and chairman for the MSC, Wolfgang Ischinger, and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres delivered the keynote speech. The latest MSC report 2018 issued the week ahead of the conference, titled To the Brink and Back, described that the year 2017 was marked by signs of continued erosion of a liberal international order and increasing unpredictable U.S. foreign policy, and tensions in many parts of the world have been growing. The Chinese delegation was led by Fu Ying, chairman of Foreign Affairs Committee of China's National People's Congress, NPC. Fu made an exclusive interview with China Central Television CCTV on Friday and said that China's delegation was there mainly to observe the international views on the current situation in the international community and participate in the international security field and explain the concept of common security, of how to continue to promote cooperation in global security under such a changing world.
Tennis star Roger Federer becomes the oldest ATP world #1. His achievement comes fresh from winning his 20th Grand Slam title in Melbourne this month.
Roger Federer added yet another record to his vast collection when he guaranteed becoming the oldest ATP world #1 by beating Dutchman Robin Haase 4-6, 6-1 and 6-1 to reach the semi-finals in Rotterdam on Friday.
What an amazing run it's been, and the journey it's been for me throughout. So to clinch world #1 again now this following Monday here in Rotterdam really means a lot to me, so thank you very much everybody.
Fresh from winning his 20th Grand Slam title in Melbourne this month, Federer took a wild card into the ABN AMRO World Tennis event with his eye fixed on a return to #1 from the first since November 2012 at the age of 36 years and 195 days.
And when you're older, you know, you feel like you have to put maybe sometimes double the work in. So this one maybe means the most to me throughout my career. Getting to #1 and enjoying it right here at 36, almost 37 years old is an absolute dream come true. I can't believe it.
Afterwards, he was presented by a trophy to mark his achievement and became emotional as he addressed the crowd, which gave him a standing ovation.
Greenpeace scientists gathered data in the Antarctic to preserve the pristine waters of the Antarctic, where penguins frolic, icebergs float through the sea, and mountains plunge into the frigid waters circling this continent at the bottom of the world.
A Greenpeace research vessel, the Arctic Sunrise, is a 3-month voyage through the waters of the Southern Ocean to document the effects of climate change, pollution, and fishing on the native wildlife to build support for a proposed Antarctic Ocean Sanctuary. The sanctuary would measure 1.8 million square kilometers, making it the largest protected area on Earth and provide a safe haven for marine life from industrial fishing. The area is natural habitat of numerous whales, seals, penguins, and many kinds of fish and marine life. According to Greenpeace, the sanctuary is needed to put the area off limits to krill fishing industry, which is looking to expand into the area. Krill is a keystone in the Antarctic ecosystem. Most wildlife is either directly or indirectly dependent on it, including penguins, whales, and seals. Greenpeace says its proposed Antarctic Ocean Sanctuary in the Weddell Sea has been submitted by the EU and backed by German government to be taken up at the next Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources in October 2018 in Australia.
Well, that's it for now. Stay tuned for more updates of recent current affairs stories here on PSM News. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.